Week 3, we're going to cover the art of ancient Egypt. In particular, I want you to be aware that the Nile River was a source of an economy and agriculture. Actually, the river starts at the bottom here and flows northward. So you have Upper Egypt is here and Lower Egypt's here. So Egypt under the pharaohs, please be aware that the rivers and its desert location actually protected the culture for nearly 3,000 years. The purpose of art in Egypt was to glorify the gods and the pharaoh and to facilitate human passage into the afterlife. It was also to preserve the values of the day. The pharaohs were thought of as divine rulers. So know that the Nile River was central to the development of Egyptian civilization. It brought water, allowed for the growing of crops, and rich soil every year. The inundation, which was a flooding of the Nile River, allowed for their success. The Egyptians had a very sophisticated, complicated religion. They had many gods and goddesses. Also, the pharaoh was thought as divine. Live pharaohs identified with the god Horus, and at death with the god Osiris. The Egyptians built monumental architecture, and it was also to be symbolic of the power of the pharaoh in life and death. They had a system of writing called hieroglyphic writing. We actually know who built some of the pyramids. We know that the King Dozier's step pyramid was built by Imhotep. In art in Egypt, there were some artistic constants, rules for how the gods and humans could be depicted. In particular, the sizes of the figure. They had a system of hierarchy of scale, whereby the most important figure was depicted as the largest figure. One work of art you're going to see is the palette of Narmer, ceremonial palette of Narmer. It was actually a palette used to mix makeup in the desert climate, or was symbolic of that. You can see images of the pharaoh on the palette of Narmer, and Narmer was the pharaoh at the time. There's a lot of symbolism. The falcon depicted near the king was symbolic of Upper Egypt. Remember, that was at the bottom, more central to Africa. Horus, the god of the sky, is depicted there. There's hieroglyphics that tells the story of the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. So be aware when you're looking at the palette of King Narmer to look for those symbols. The early funerary architecture of the Egyptians were step pyramids. Initially started with low platform mastabas and gradually went to the step pyramid and later to the full pyramid that we're familiar with from our own social studies history. Within the pyramids, there was a place for the pharaoh to be buried and also a special place for the Ka statue to go. So as we know, there was a very strong preoccupation with the afterlife in ancient Egypt, based on the tombs, what was found in the tombs, and an important how the bodies of the important people were mummified. They had a sophisticated method of mummifying and preserving the body. So you'll learn that this week. The Egyptians made monumental sculpture. You can see this in the Great Sphinx. You'll find this in Cairo. The Sphinx is a lion's body with a human head. So this composite form was symbolic of Pharaoh with human intelligence, but the strength of the beast. As mentioned before, there was the importance of maintaining the soul, and so Ka statues were made. It was a place where the king's soul could wait until he moved into the afterlife. As far as Old Kingdom sculpture, statues were made of dorite, very hard stone. They were meant to last for eternity. If you notice, the king is very idealized. He's young and muscular. His body's very compact. His arms are close to his body. He's very serene. There's a lot of dignity and power. A sense of permanence is conveyed. So it's very quiet, no movement. Also note that the king is wearing the headdress of Horus, falcon headdress. So you can see the Old Kingdom sculpture. The bodies are very well proportioned. They're very compact, very young, muscular, very youthful looking. And if you'll notice also, they're in upright statues are in a striding posture with 1 foot forward. The males had a sort of a kilt skirt, and the females had a very thin dress, like a chiton dress. The Egyptians also used relief sculpture on the tombs. Once again, we still see that the humans are proportioned realistically. And as far as the scenes go, they're just scenes from everyday life, scenes of everyday activities, yet they're on the tomb walls. So these would remind the tomb, give the ability of the pharaoh, the deceased, to still have memories and slaves, images of slaves and workers that would help them into the afterlife. You see the hierarchy of scale as well, where the pharaoh is depicted the largest. Please note there's going to be a blip in that idealized canon of proportions when we get to King Akhenaten. He's going to change the religion, and he's also depicted very differently, kind of small and soft, almost looks like a female figure with a waistline. His features are very different, not so much muscular and young and youthful. He's young, but he's not as muscular and fit. It's almost as though he's not very healthy. Women were depicted in Egyptian art. Usually they were the queen's wife or mother. Here we see Nefertiti, her painted portrait head, and she has the crown of a queen on her head. We also see Queen Tyre here, Akhenaten's mother. So she's not really idealized. She looks young. She's a mature woman with some lines in her forehead and so forth. So another form of sculpture was the sunken relief sculpture. You see this here with depicting Akhenaten on the left and his wife Nefertiti, and they're playing with their 3 daughters. Notice the king is the largest figure. They have Akhenaten went to one god, the sun god. That's depicted with the disc up there. You see how Akhenaten is not idealized. He's not like the muscular male we saw in other pharaoh images. So remember, for ancient Egyptian art, Nile River was very important. The annual inundation brought rich soil to the land so they could grow crops and be successful economically. The religion was pretty complex. It was incorporated the importance of moving the deceased into an afterlife. They had Ka statues. They wanted to protect the soul or Ka into the afterlife. The art served to glorify the gods and the pharaoh and facilitate a human passage into the afterlife. Art was symbolic of the kings, the pharaoh kings. They were depicted in like the Palette of Narmer, pyramids, tombs, and temples. Formula for the figure in sculpture and painting was represented in a composite view. If you'll notice, the head is in profile, and the torso is shown frontal, and the legs are shown in profile. Sculpture was very compact, idealized, and timeless, and painting was organized in bands, not scattered. So you'll notice that. Of course, continuing with the hierarchy of scale was important. And then in the Amarna period, with King Akhenaten, you see a complete change in the art of ancient Egypt.